I'm Duncan McLeod, and this is TechCentral's TCS Plus, brought to you today by Dimension Data, soon, of course, to be NTT Data, and Palo Alto Networks. Now, we're going to be talking SASE today. That's SASE as in SASE. SASE is short for Secure Access Service Edge. And as I understand it, it's basically an architecture that delivers converged security and networking as a service. And I know I'm probably massively undersimplifying that, but my guests on an internet call today know much more about SASE than I do, and they're going to fill in the TechCentral audience today on what it is and why your organization should be considering it. So, in no particular order, I'd like to introduce my guest today. Padma Naidoo leads the security practice in Dimension Data and has more than 15 years of experience in the field of resilience, including cyber resilience. She's joined by Laudec McCarthy. Laudec is Senior Security Solutions Architect in the Dimension Data Middle East and Africa business, and he has more than 16 years of experience in the information security field. And my third guest today is Ross Templeton, and he is a System Engineering Manager at Palo Alto Networks for sub-Saharan Africa. Ross has more than 2 decades of experience in IT and telecommunications and has held senior technical and management positions at various large multinational vendors and system integrators. Padma, Laudec, Ross, welcome to TechCentral, and thanks for the time.
Thanks so much, Duncan.
Great. Well, we're going to unpack all things SASE today, and I'm looking forward to learning more about SASE. I've obviously heard the term before, but don't have a full insight into what it is and what it can do for organizations. So I'm going to be learning, I suspect, along with the TechCentral audience today. Padma, I introduced you first, so let me direct the first question to you if I can. How long have Dimension Data and Palo Alto Networks worked together? Tell us a bit more about the strategic partnership between the two companies.
We've been doing work together for several years. The managed networks services offering that we're speaking about today is one of the first global integrated service offerings that we have. There's another that's in production, in development at the moment. But both at a global level and at a local level in South Africa, Palo Alto and Dimension Data for years and years. After that, branding to NTT, like you said, we are going blue. We have been working on several security solutions which incorporate the best of breed technology from Palo Alto and the wraparound services from Dimension Data.
Fantastic. All right, Laudec, I'm going to bring you in here. Let's get sassy for a moment, if you'll excuse the turn of phrase. What is SASE exactly, and what does it mean for organizations? Why should they be considering it?
Yeah. So SASE, SASE, like you said, it's essentially a emerging security framework that combines various network security and wide area network capabilities into a single cloud-based service. So how this helps organizations is with the increase in remote workers and the cloud applications. SASE helps organizations to then securely connect or authenticate these users from anywhere to any applications without the limitations of your traditional network perimeters. And it does this by taking some of the key networking and security functionality that you have and combining it then into the single platform, essentially.
Okay. Ross, I know business needs, the demands of business are shifting. Maybe take us through some of the history of SASE and why it emerged to help organizations in their journeys.
Sure. So SASE, the term SASE was really founded by Gartner a few years ago. And as Laudec said, it's an architecture, a framework of a network and a security layer built into the cloud. Now, COVID really accelerated that journey into a SASE architecture. Because as Laudec said, it's a framework where you have remote users anywhere, people in buildings and offices, etc., all connecting the resources in the cloud. Now, what happened with COVID is everyone went home, right? And suddenly organizations had to scramble to get all the users to work from home. And that really accelerated this whole remote access part of SASE. Also, if you think about traditional networking, traditionally we had traffic running from an office. It originated from the office. It terminated in the data center where the applications were, and maybe some of that traffic went out to the internet. Now, if you think about how traffic flows in our networks today, it flows the same path really from the office or the user to the data center, and everything goes to the internet because all the SaaS-based applications are located in the internet. So SASE really gets around that kind of tromboning effect or that complicated effect of having to go to a central place before you can get to the application and shortcuts it. So why shouldn't a user go from his office or his home or wherever he is and access the application where it is directly? And SASE allows that, and that's why we've built in such strong networking and security components into the SASE architecture. So I think the journey of SASE it's been fast-tracked because of the likes of COVID, but also the way we work has changed. So now, coming back to the office, we bring in that aspect of an SD-WAN component, a networking component directly into the SASE cloud infrastructure. So you're connecting your offices now directly into the SASE platform.
Padma, how mature is the SASE model in South Africa? How many organizations have deployed it? Is it still fairly in its infancy phases still? What are we seeing out there from a South African perspective? And are South African organizations behind or ahead of the curve in terms of deployment?
Look, I think from a South African perspective, we always tend to be not the earliest adopters when it comes to new technology and solutions. However, I can say that the majority of large organizations and majority of large clients that we engage with have either already adopted SASE, albeit in specific parts, are busy with some form of transition, or are at least investigating it. What we see is that Gartner's actually predicted that 80% of organizations will have adopted SASE, or at least some form of SASE, some components of a SASE solution by 2025. And the interest in the market is definitely there around SASE, the opportunities that there are around SASE, the capabilities that exist to deliver your cloud-based security, bringing things like threat prevention, web filtering, sandboxing, etc., all together, DLP, all into one place and a single centralized platform.
So, Laudec, can you, as an organization, do this on a bit-by-bit basis, or is it something that you need to kind of plan for as one big project? Padma's just suggested that some companies have implemented some components of the SASE model. So is it possible to do this on a sort of a piecemeal basis, or do you have to have an overarching strategic plan before you go down this route?
It's essentially a little bit of both. The business definitely needs to have a strategic plan in place in terms of going the SASE route. So it starts with that vision that the organization would have, but then, definitely take it in little bite-sized chunks. Don't go and try and do a big bang approach in terms of deploying SASE into the entire organization. It does come with its own complexities, but by systematically rolling it out, you start with essentially a smaller site. You roll it out. You roll specific components of SASE out that make sense to the business requirements. You build your security policies, you fine-tune it, you test it, and then you roll it out further and further from that point onwards. Some organizations would be a little bit easier because they might have a lot fewer sites, a smaller user base, but some organizations might be multinationals. They might have branches out into Africa or out into the rest of the world, where a much more systematic approach would make a lot more business sense as well for the organization. And it does play a lot into the success rate of deploying a SASE solution for organizations as well.
Okay. Padma, maybe take us through what the organization can expect when they embark on a journey to SASE. Let's say I'm a retailer or a manufacturer and I'm fairly new to this concept, but I like what it potentially can do for my organization. What should organizations expect along that journey? What does this look like?
So the first step, I think, is to really unpack where you are as an organization. And answering those questions, or answering that, is divided into a few things. I mean, how far along your cloud journey are you? What are the expectations from the business internally, your digital transformation strategy, as well as your clients, in terms of how you operate? Yeah, how much of progress have you made? You also need to look at what your expectations are from your workforce. And I think moving into a hybrid workplace, a lot of companies were forced by COVID. Some of them coming out of it have taken an approach that we're heading back to the offices. Others have, or the majority have gone, we are going into some sort of hybrid format. And there have been those that have embraced the remote working completely. So I think, what you expect to do with your workforce, both what you're doing now and what you want to do going forward, plays a role in it. And when you bring these elements together, you need to really say, okay, well, based on this, what do I need from my SASE journey? Which components do I need? What am I looking to achieve first? And from there, you start to say, okay, now I've assessed what my objectives are, what I aim to get out of SASE. Then you start looking at what is the gap. Let me stack my current capability, my current security architecture, my current network architecture against what I'm aiming to achieve. Once you've looked at that and you've gone, okay, this is where I'm strong, this is where I'm not, you then start to look at your vendors. Which partner do you want to take into this journey? Obviously, if you're looking to deploy a SASE solution yourself within the organization, there's a massive skills requirement. There's significant planning. There's actually a lot of work that has to go into it between your networking team and your security team, which are, and these two teams are traditionally quite disparate. They work in isolation in a lot of instances. But in selecting your preferred provider when it comes to SASE, you need to look at how you want to actually have it land within the organization, what skills you have, and if you're looking for a partner that can actually take this over. Once you have that in place, it's about building your implementation plan and your roadmap. And depending whether you're going completely managed or not, working very closely with your selected partner to implement on it.
So it sounds to me like these projects can be quite complicated, and you probably don't want to go into them without doing proper background research about why you're doing it and how you're going to do it. But Laudec, maybe take us through some of the complexities and challenges that companies should be aware of when they're considering SASE.
So there's a couple of things that's jumping to mind. And I think in organizations, you will potentially have legacy systems, right? Your traditional service infrastructure, older infrastructure or applications that might not necessarily be immediately compatible with a SASE solution. The whole idea is that your application sits in a cloud environment. So if you have older infrastructure or older applications that you cannot easily enough virtualize and put it into a cloud, then that could potentially become a hindrance. Padma did mention vendor selection as well. I think it's important to note that not all SASE solutions are created equal. And organizations will need to find one that fits their needs as well. I think the other one, bandwidth requirements, because obviously from now users are going to be accessing their applications over the internet. They're going to be having direct connectivity to the application sitting in the cloud. There needs to be thought put into all of the additional bandwidth requirement and the latency that could come with this as well. And then I think probably an important one is also employee training. As with any new system, there's obviously also a learning curve, not just for the users, but for the IT staff at the end of the day as well, in terms of managing the operational side for these kind of deployments.
Ross, let me bring you back in here. What are the triggers that, if that's the right word, that typically start companies off on their SASE journeys, and what sort of projects are companies typically looking to implement using SASE?
So I think the main trigger or initiative that companies have started looking SASE at is when they refresh their remote infrastructure, or their remote access infrastructure. So how a hybrid user would connect should have the same experience as how an office worker should connect, right? So I think the catalyst really for SASE for us was, or certainly what we see in South Africa, is the first use case that most of our customers adopt is Zero Trust Network Access, or ZTNA. And then there's a whole lot of things that, as we go through the evolution of the journey with that customer, we add on things like SD-WAN, like next generation KSB, like secure web gateways, etc. So that's kind of the starting point. I would say that Zero Trust Network Access is probably the biggest a driver at this point.
Interesting. Well, Laudec, let's talk a bit about security and ZTNA. I've heard the term before, but for those who don't know what Zero Trust Network Access is, how do you define it?
Very big question. I think the best way of describing it is a security framework requirement for all users within an organization, whether they on the inside of the organization or outside of the organization's network. And for all of these users to be constantly authenticated, authorized, and continuously validated for security configurations and posture before being granted access to applications or data. So if you think about your traditional VPN connection, right? You make a VPN connection to your organization. You have a username and a password. It authenticates you. And the moment you're authenticated, you get full access to all organization resources through that connection. Now, whether you're supposed to have access to it or not, that VPN connection can't control it. It doesn't have that context. It doesn't have that continuous validation of you as a user in terms of what those applications are that you are or not allowed to use. So Zero Trust is essentially, it assumes that there is no traditional network edge. In other words, your traditional connection, your traditional edge doesn't exist. Networks can be local, they can be in the cloud, it can be a combination of hybrid with resources anywhere. So as long as the workers is in any location. And I think, if we start looking at how Zero Trust comes into the SASE conversation, they are separate, but in a way they're also related to each other. They're alike because they are both security frameworks, like we mentioned, that protect your network infrastructure from threats. But because SASE is built on Zero Trust is a core component of SASE then. Mm-hmm. SASE is designed to help organizations to embrace the cloud and mobility by providing that network and network security services from a common cloud-delivered architecture. We're all seeing that convergence of networking and security, where SASE then converges the networking and the security service into that one unified cloud delivery solution. So instead of having all of these different point solutions, the different standalone components, we have that unified solution then that we can then provide. Every user that connects to the system is constantly verified, constantly authenticated, to make sure that he only has access to the applications that he should have at that point of time.
Right, Ross, let me bring you back in here. Let's talk a little bit about Palo Alto solutions and what Palo Alto brings to the table. And you have something called the Prisma Suite. Take us through that and what it is exactly and what it offers to the market.
Yes, so thanks. like I explained to you earlier, SASE really is a framework on architecture, and in our portfolio we have two components that make up that SASE solution, or Prisma SASE. So first component is Prisma Access. That is for remote access, remote users and remote branch connectivity. And then the second portion of it is the Prisma SD-WAN side, which is your SD-WAN component. Now, if we just start with Prisma Access, let me just give you a little bit of an idea on how we've built this service out, because it really is a service. It's hosted in over 100 locations globally, and that's growing. And we have built this platform on the back of the big cloud providers, GCP and AWS, or our cloud providers. So we leverage their scale to be able to provide the service out to our customer base globally. And then if we're talking a little bit about the SD-WAN portion, so we have what we call second generation SD-WAN. That is really application-based routing, SD-WAN routing. So you route your traffic based on application instead of a port and IP address, which was traditional based on routing. And with that, we can draw out a whole lot of analytics and track and route traffic based on metrics of the network. So, for instance, if one link is slower or is down, we would reroute specific applications over a different link. And that's really from a high level perspective. Then what we've built over that is a visibility layer, which we call ADEM, which stands for Autonomous Digital Experience Management. And that really gives the operator the ability to see exactly what's happening in the network, whether it's from a CPE router or someone working remotely in their home, all the way through to the application. So, for instance, you can imagine a call center gets a call from Laudec saying, my internet connection is slow and I can't access Office 365. Where do you start to troubleshoot that? So with the ADEM technology, it actually gives the operator the ability to look at the flow from his endpoint all the way to the application and then pinpoint places where there could be problems. And you'll find out 9 out of 10 times the problem is in the person's house with their Wi-Fi router. So if you can eliminate those kind of problems early on, it gives you that a much higher customer satisfaction. It also the system also gives you hints to look at, like, if your bandwidth if you're over consuming bandwidth and you need to upgrade links, to say in 2 days' time you're going to have to upgrade this link because you've got too much. The network traffic is growing. So these are the types of things that we've built into the solution. So Prisma Access with Prisma SD-WAN together forms our Prisma SASE platform, if you will.
Thank you. Padma, I think following on from that, if you don't mind, maybe take us through how Dimension Data then offers its managed network services offering on top of with the solutions from Palo Alto Networks.
Sure. So from a managed service perspective, we provide the full team in order to monitor and respond to and implement all of the changes that would be required. It's responding to all of your security alerts and requirements. I think one of the key benefits attached to this, I spoke about skills earlier. With the managed service offering that we have, you have access to a large network of skilled engineers, both with security and network skills, on a 24/7 basis. A second key element of the services is the AI and the automation. So the platform is tailored. It's tuned to monitor and manage SASE environments. Another key element of it is the ability to create visibility in your end-to-end network. So I think in a lot of organizations, the requirement is always there. How do I get a single pane of glass? Especially when it comes to security, there are multiple different vendors, multiple different technologies that are deployed in an environment. And being able to bring your entire network security into one single platform, one single dashboard, one single view is very powerful to users. Beyond that, I think what we offer clients from a value proposition perspective is the ability to save costs by deploying the solution and actually having the resources sitting within NTT. You've got a flexible model. You get rid of the hardware that's typically on premise at various sites, and you also move into a consumption based space that becomes far more flexible and cost effective.
Thank you. Laudec, just following up from Padma's points there, I imagine, I don't know, but I imagine there are plenty of SASE offerings in the market, plenty of choice for clients out there. How, in your view, should companies be evaluating this wide range of offerings that are available in the market? And what are some of the things to consider when selecting a managed network services partner?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. I mean, there are a number of offerings in the market, and I think probably the most important one is working with the right partner. Right, that's very important. It's become more critical as the importance of enterprise as an enterprise's security posture has been elevated to the board level. These days it's not IT that's driving security into organizations. It's the board from a business perspective that's driving this. So IT should never become a driver of security within any organization. Also, evaluating managed network service provider partner options starts with probing into their operating scale. How big is the partner that you're going to be partnering with? What is their technical expertise that they have? What kind of resources do they have? And the track record as an established market player. Are you going to work with a regional partner only, or are you going to work with a global partner that's got substantial footprint in terms of people and technology around the world? And then I think, if I bring that back to NTT and Palo Alto, both organizations, two formidable industry players within the technology and the security space, massive amounts of expertise, the market presence across the globe, extensive resources to support, these kind of deployments for organizations, no matter how small or how big they are. Coupled with NTT's intelligence-driven managed services, our secure by design platform approach, and then also Palo Alto's industry-leading technologies and the combined pool of global security expertise. Those are some of the things that comes out to me in terms of, how it should be evaluated.
Ross, let me ask you a similar question then from the Palo Alto perspective. Maybe just some views on your relationship with NTT and also what some of the advantages are of customers using NTT's managed networks with Palo Alto's Prisma SASE solution.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I was thinking back to your initial question, your first question to Padma, is like, how long have we been partnering together? So, locally we've been partnering together for over 10 years. Together we have some of the biggest enterprises on our books within sub-Saharan Africa. And I think the value that Dimension Data really brings to the party is their ability to scale, right? So the amount of engineers and tech centers that they have around the globe is certainly an advantage, and it really leads into what Laudec was saying. Is like, are you locally based, or do you have a global footprint? I think that's a huge benefit for any customer. And then if I think about Palo Alto. And specifically the SASE solution, you must remember that this solution is built on our next generation firewall technology. So when I said that we have locations, 100 plus locations around the world, we actually have our next generation firewall technology built into every single one of these locations. So what a customer experiences today on a hardware-based firewall that's in a data center the experiences on Prisma Access or Prisma SASE. So the networking and the security aspects of the solution are very tightly aligned. And then if you add on things like AI Ops and ADEM, this really brings value. And I think, from a partnership perspective, taking a best-of-breed technology that is managed from a single pane of glass and a global network player that has the expertise, it's a win-win situation.
Padma, I asked you the first question on this podcast. I'm going to ask you the final question on this podcast, but guys, feel free to jump in as well with your views. What advice would you give to clients who are just starting out on a SASE journey? What are the top 3 things you would tell a new client who wants to go this route?
I think I actually touched on it earlier, going through the process. I mean, what clients should be looking for when they engage around SASE. But I think beyond that, looking at some of the common pitfalls, I know Laudec's mentioned some of it, so has Ross, but I think clients really need to make sure that when they're embarking on this journey, they're taking a holistic approach. And in selecting the technology, they need to make sure that the technology selected integrate well. The last thing you want is your SASE solution to interfere with your network functionality or your network analytics capabilities or anything like that. So you need to have a solution that integrates very well. I think the second piece of advice would be start off small. Pick a site, pick a component, test it, make sure it's working well, and then roll it out. I think Laudec's already said that from, don't go big. The third thing that I would say is make sure that you've got a very clear plan. If you look at when we position the M&S SASE offering, we follow a very comprehensive life cycle when it comes to our services. We start off with a consulting piece that looks at assessing your readiness, understanding exactly where you are. We move into the design component that then brings both components together, looks at what your architecture has to look like. You validate the design and the blueprint through that. We then go into a build phase, and in that build phase, it's how are we integrating the services, how are we migrating, etc. And then when you go operational, make sure that you're testing it. The last component of our life cycle is really around optimization. So it's not just about how do I deploy it, it's how do I make sure that I'm getting the maximum benefit out of the solution that I've deployed, because that's one thing that we can say out of the clients that we have and we've seen. Yes, a lot of the large corporates have already implemented SASE, but are they seeing the maximum benefit of it yet? Probably not. So I think that those would be the 3 pieces of advice I'd give anyone.
Any final thoughts from your side, Laudec?
Yeah, I think I can probably add one additional item to what Padma just said. I think organizations should remember that the journey to SASE is not just about technology. It's about aligning technology with business goals, enhancing your security, and then ultimately improving the user experience.
Fantastic. Guys, if anyone wants to learn more about the NTT Dimension Data offering, we will include a link to that on the TechCentral article that goes with this video. And if you want to learn more about the Palo Alto, similarly, the Palo Alto Networks SASE solution will include a link to the Palo Alto Networks website as well. So do check that out. Padma Naidoo leads the security practice at Dimension Data. Laudec McCarthy is Senior Security Solutions Architect in the Dimension Data Middle East and Africa business. And Ross Templeton is System Engineering Manager at Palo Alto Networks. Thank you so much, all 3 of you, for a fascinating conversation.
Thanks, Duncan.
Thank you very much.